Hello to those of you who could make it. How are you? I just am doing another one of my quick pop-ins, live pop-ups, just going over a couple of rom-coms that I have watched recently. And I like doing it this way because it's fun. I can be here for as little as long as you all want. And for those of you here in the live stream, hi. For those of you who are watching this on the replay, truly appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts below in the comments, and you can also follow along with the live stream. I don't know, everywhere I put my hands is the wrong way. Oh, hi Emily, hi Sharon, Tony, Jessica, Courtney, hi. I thought it would be fun to pop in and talk about two of the films I've watched, the things that I am doing for science. I am not wearing any face makeup because it is too fucking hot. Okay, this is Texas. It is on fire with hot. It's horrible. I hate it, and I want to leave this place with like everything I've got. I'm like, you know what? It would be great if I could leave here, but I can't. So I'm like, I can't currently. I mean, one day I'll be able to, just not today. But let me do one thing right quick, and then we will be rocking and rolling. All right, so I've done that. All right, so for those of you who don't know, I know, Tony, these nails are giving me life like, Now I can't stop making the Meg the Stallion noise. And like every time I look at somebody, I was talking to my mom and I was just like, and this, and this, and then this, and then this, and then mom. I think she noticed, but like, what was she going to say? Hi, older, not invisible. Moly mole. Hi, Sharon. I thank you, Lisa. I was not expecting this many of you to actually show up here. So like, I feel a little chagrined. So what we're going to be talking about today, Audra, is how poorly sex work is represented in Hollywood romantic comedies. So get your seats ready. So this all harkens back to Pretty Woman, because if you all don't know, what I do in these pop-up lives is I deconstruct romantic comedies. And we're going to be talking about Pretty Woman, and we're also going to be talking about The Wedding Date, because The Wedding Date is the male form of sex worker, which I don't know if we're still calling them gigolos. I have no clue. And then, of course, we have Pretty Woman, which, yes, moly mole, you caught that one. So here's thing one. When you're looking at Pretty Woman, first of all, both of these tales, this isn't romantic. I'm just going to say that. It is not in any way, shape, or form romantic at all that you as a sex worker get lifted up off the streets and out of poverty. And there is a disparaging difference between Pretty Woman and The Wedding Date in that his character is not in poverty in any way, shape, or form because he's high class. You know what I mean? And then Julia Roberts is more of a, don't nobody get mad at me. I'm not being shitty. I'm saying in the realm of sex work, she is more of a common street hooker than she would be an escort, which does play into these things, because if I were a rich man like Richard Gere was in the position that I was in, it wouldn't really make sense for me to hire on her to like do the rich people thing and escort me and accompany places when I could literally go purchase like someone who that is their job. Like their job is knowing about the rich and the famous and the proper clothes and all of that stuff that you're supposed to have. So there is a disparaging difference between a male doing it and a female doing it. And then on top of that, in both of these instances, very much the idea is that that job is not really a job. It's just a gateway to them finding love. Because we don't actually interact with their job, right? So like Julia Roberts' character in Pretty Woman, we don't ever actually interact or see her doing her job, like at all. We see her standing on the street, we see her wearing the outfit, but we don't ever actually see her doing her job. She's never actually doing the job, and then she meets Richard Gere and all is well and good. So that's really very bothersome to me, because the representation of it does seem, when you were young, romantic, right? Like, and you didn't even really think about the job. And as you got older, you started realizing like, oh, she's a sex worker. And then even worse, you started to be like, but like, that's her job. Like, she didn't enter this job to like find a Prince Charming, if that makes sense. So it's just very not cool. Yes, I do remember when Hugh Grant was caught with a street hooker. I do remember that. And I see that like celebrities do this, and I feel like part of that is specifically like that was a very specific thing, and I think that they do this to get caught because they could not get caught. Yes. Yes. It was Disneyfied. So I agree with that, because it does bother me that at no point in time do you actually see her doing her job. Sharon, good point. Overwhelmingly, it's a white heterosexual universe too. No gender variation. People of color are supporting characters if they're there at all. Yes. There. Wait. Did I just disappear, or what happened? Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm just checking because it's really hot here. So I don't know if the internet's going to like. Psh, psh. Hi, Christine. Am I back? Yeah, I thought it froze for a second. So I was like, I kind of stopped because I was like, Um, so, right, I'm shook. So if you look at Pretty Woman and how it's very much framed, her as a sex worker is pretty much removed from her pretty quickly. Like, she's going to get her $5,000. She's super excited. And the only real issue that she really faces through most of this is just like getting more pretty and getting into wearing the right outfit and getting into like kind of understanding forks, which could quickly be interchanged with any one of those extraordinary circumstance fairy princess movies, and you could completely remove the sex work from it. Like literally, you would never even have to have Pretty Woman be a sex worker in that movie, and it would be the same movie. Like she could just be a woman that he happened to be like, hey, I need you to do me a favor, and like she could have been a secretary. Do you know what I'm saying? She could have been a million and one things, and for some reason they decided on that, but like that has not. It really has no bearing on anything, and it gives this false. Both movies give a very false impression that people who do this job, they aren't looking at it as an actual job. It is work. It is work here. In both of these movies, they end up falling for their charges, but it's work. Like it is a job. And it really bothers me so much that they take that part of it away, because it's very much giving the impression that sex work is okay if you're looking for love, I guess. Yes, it is. It's the framework for her being down in the dumps. And again, like literally they could have done a million and one things for her to be down in the dumps. You know, they could have given her a small apartment and she just lost her job. Like they could have framed it a million different ways, but instead they framed it as like the hooker with the heart of gold. Like that is the framework that they used, and she could have been a lower socioeconomic class, but she just didn't have to be a sex worker. Not because there's anything wrong with sex work, but because I don't like the way that they tried to frame it. I don't like the way that they took away the legitimacy of it as being a job, and I don't like that they really tried to frame all of it as romantic, because it's a job. The majority of sex workers are not in this like hoping that they're going to find their Prince Charming. And I think that it gives like as dumb as this may sound, when you're young, it gives you a skewed view of what this job is. So I feel like there were so many of us in our minds thinking like, I want to be her, and thinking that sex work just involved rich men, like rich men, and then you would be sad, right? Yes, Emily. Framing sex work as a way to find true love is the worst thing ever. Sex workers are not doing this to find a husband. Exactly. Yes. This is an industry, not a Disney. Yes. Thank you, Nate. It does make sex work look easy and like it's about makeup and not actual work. And Feffy, you're hitting my next point. The impression that sex work is something that people, specifically women, need to be saved from, so problematic. It's so problematic. And one of the biggest reasons that it's problematic because it acts as if the women have no agency, they have no choice. And that's the other thing. The reason I brought up the fact that Julia Roberts was a street hooker is because I don't know how many of you know this, but especially back then, but usually the streets are kind of, pimp life, madam life, like somebody there's a boss in there, a hierarchy of boss work. So it was just weird that she was like, I'm going to get $5,000 and like moved on. Like, all right. And I think that this is true about a lot of movies, but I think even if they reframed it and made it less Disney-esque and less sanitized, I still think they would have framed it as it's something that you need to be saved from. And if you flip that over to the wedding date, note that the onus is still on the woman for being less than. Like, he is the man, he is the sex worker, and yet somehow she, Deborah Messing's character, is the loser. She's somehow the loser who's sad. And then again, it frames it as her being a loser and being sad. And so she buys a man to not look stupid instead of really talking about like companionship, which is a big reason that a lot of folks will do this. Like they'll to like hire a sex workers, companionship. They sanitize it to the point where it doesn't really even show. Where he does mention though his prices, and he does mention like after they've he does mention that like how much it would have cost for that. But yes, the power dynamics in Pretty Woman are another problematic aspect. It is true. And the fact that because here's the other thing, when someone does treat her as the sex worker that she is suddenly upset by this. And I didn't understand that. That bothered me a lot because I was just like, but that's your job. Not in a rude way, but when someone's like, listen, I want to pay too. I want to do this thing. Looking back on that, like when you're younger, you're like, oh my God, how awful. How dare he treat her like that? But I was like, but she's a sex worker and he knew that. So like, was he nice about it? No, but I don't think everybody's always nice in that whole thing. But the fact that she was like, so like shooken up, like by the whole thing I'm like, but that's your job. Like it was weird. Like, so I just thought it was very awkward. Like now looking back on it and rewatching that particular part of it doesn't even make a lot of sense as to why she would be like so offended. Like, did she just suddenly forget that she used to do that? Like, she's just suddenly sitting there just like, oh my God. Oh my God. He asked me to do my job when I'm done doing this job. Like, it was weird. Like, did anybody else feel that was weird? Yes, Allie. She just acts so fragile. Like she's just never, like she's just legitimately just like, and like falls apart. And I just found that to be really, really sad that that's how they framed it. Like suddenly because she was rich now. And like, what? And Femi, yes. So Deborah Messing has a job that she's good at. She has money. She looks good. And she's still a loser because a man dumped her. that's the thing. Whenever women hire a sex worker in their movies, whenever women do this, they're always losers somehow. They're always sad. They're always losers. They're always just like, and not like real losers. It's just like a man dumped them. They're lonely. They're like not even like they're just, I got to make this guy jealous. I'm finished. Like everybody thinks I'm a loser. And it's always to show up at a wedding or like some event. And so it's just a weird dynamic that whenever women are hiring the man, it's because of a man. Like some man has done something to her. And she's like, I can't be like show up at this party. Bo, shit, stop. Take this. Go on about your business. Thank you. Um, so it's very much framed that Deborah Messing's character doesn't want to show up to a wedding and be embarrassed, her sister's wedding, and be embarrassed by the guy that dumped her. And it's just like, or she could have just wanted companionship. But you could like frame this without all of that. And again, it became like a love romantic thing where she just couldn't seem to draw the line in between what is the job, like his job versus, and like he even says, like, there's a reason I don't do weddings. And I just feel like this framing of making sex work romantic is so bothersome, and it's not good because like it's a job. It's like trying to constantly frame, for instance, like law and brokers and all of that, like investment banking. They try to frame these jobs as like super exciting all the time, and then like that's not true. Like those jobs are not ridiculously exciting at all times. Like a lot of people who work in investment banking and stocks, they just sit there and they're bored. Like they just sit there, they do their job. They're not like sitting on phones all the time being like, yeah, sell. Yeah, sell. So I feel like constantly trying to frame sex work as like this very romantic thing that starts out as a job but becomes love is just not okay. Yes, that part. Men are the actors and women are the reactors. And women always seem to be there and at odds with one another in these movies because even Julia Roberts' character in Pretty Woman is at odds with like when she walks into the store. So first of all, when he gives her money to like go buy clothing, this is another thing I didn't get. If you're going to get, if he's as rich as he is, why didn't he just have clothes brought to the hotel? Like, why would he put her in a situation where she was going to walk out in that outfit in on Hollywood Boulevard, obviously looking like that, like she does what she does, obviously looking like what she does is on the street. Why would he subject her to that and be like, I need you to get some clothes? And then she's like, okay. And then she goes, like, why would he not? Like, if he didn't want anybody to find out about her and what she did. It's also dangerous for sex workers in real life because it framed them as people to be romantically won over rather than someone doing their job. Yes, and this is, if you have never heard the like I fell in love with a stripper like line that keeps going on and on, where people are like, oh, don't be falling in love with, that is their job. Like that's someone's job. Someone's job is like, I'm here to do, like, even in retail, right? In retail, I'm here to get you to buy as much stuff as possible because it helps my bottom line, especially if you're buying this, and this, and like certain items that we're getting bonuses on that you're not aware of, but all of us behind the counter are aware of. Like, I don't actually sometimes care if you like the color green. It's none of my business. I'm really in this thing trying to like make my money. So I'm going to do what I'm going to do to get you to buy the stuff, right? And at no point are we friends. Like when I'm like, oh my gosh, your earrings are so pretty. Like, like I'm not really your friend. I just want you to buy stuff. So the idea of framing this as people that you need to romantically win over when they're actually doing their job, like, it's not only dangerous for sex workers, but it's bad for people who think that that is a possibility, that when they go to a strip club, when they hire a sex worker, it gives them this idea that by doing this, like they're basically buying love. And that is the problem that I have. The idea that you're buying love from someone, and you're not buying love, you're just buying their time. Like you're buying their time, and also not all sex work involves sex, so there's that. But you're buying their time. Yeah. And that's the thing, buying you and then owning you. Because that's essentially like if you look at this, that's really what he did. He didn't just buy her time. He essentially bought her for as long as he needed her, and it just didn't, like, there were no real good negotiations that really happened. There was no real discussion of what she would do, where she would be. And so that just, he set her up in a weird way to like not be successful in a lot of their interactions with other people. And I was like, bruh, like, why wouldn't you set her up for success so that she knew what she was doing? So it just seemed weird that they kind of went through and did that. And it does. It gives you the idea that that's what sex workers want, and it doesn't. And I know, again, we say this all the time. Oh, it's just a movie. Oh, it's just this. But the problem is, like, as much as we don't want this stuff to seep into our heads, it always does. Whether we want to admit it or not, these kinds of things seep into our heads. And I think until you see a documentary with actual sex workers talking about their job and what they do and how they go about their lives, you still have like the idea that like they're all like angry and screaming and chewing gum in a police station, you know, like, get off me, Tony. Like, that's the impression that we have. And then when they don't have that impression, they have this, which is not good. So, right, why is this different than marrying? Because I mean, that's the thing that bothers me. It really places the the idea that like you can just buy a person above everything else, and that like you can fall in love later. So essentially, these are like another side of arranged marriage movies without calling it arranged marriage movies. But now, instead of an arrangement, we now have people who are just doing their jobs. And it's like Dermot Mulroney, that is his name. Dermot Mulroney in The Wedding Date. They do highlight more, but I think it's because it's told from a male perspective. Do you know what I mean? So they do highlight more of what he does and how he does it. And he's very much like very sensual, and you can see like the difference between the two, right? Like he's very sensual, he's very like da, 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 and like making Deborah Messing just feel like, oh my gosh, and saying things like, you're worth every penny. And then like him getting a weird look on his face, like, dude, okay. And also he should get a weird look on his face, because that's really, I don't think that you really talk like that anyways. But the thing about it is he's very clear that he's doing a job, and you can see a lot more in that framework that he's doing a job. Whereas with Pretty Woman, she is awkward, she's gawky, she's in a lot of ways put into situations where she's embarrassing, and you know, just like like, and we look at it later and we're just like, okay, well, like that's endearing or whatever, but it's not endearing. Like when you look back at it, you're like, wow, he really set her up to just fail. And I think that the difference here is that instead of them focusing on love and marriage, they're focusing on like, well, now we're in a world where people don't want to get married. So like, this is what happens, how you fall in love. You get swooped up from, you know, sex work, and you find a fantastic, you know, handsome man who's rich. Now keep that in mind, he's rich. Because if you did Pretty Woman and it was just like a regular ass dude who happened to have $5,000, like it's not going to be the same kind of movie. You know what I mean? Like it's just not. He's like, I have an additional $5,000 for you to stay in my apartment and go and to baseball games with me so that my friends think that I'm awesome. Like what? Yes. Yes. And that's a big thing. I've been trying to watch a few, but it's going to take me a little bit to get there, because I see bits and pieces. I mean, they're just visually stunning movies, though. Like, wow. And I do hate The Hooker with the Heart of Gold, because it's like they very much frame it out as all the other sex workers are gross. This one is not gross because this one is down on her luck. Like, that's the other thing. Like, she's down on her luck. She wouldn't be doing it, almost as if like this is her first night doing this job, and then she meets Richard Gere, you know? And people can honestly, this is a job that people do for their varying reasons, but it's not always like, oh, I'm trying to go to school. Because again, it keeps framing it in the very idea that it's everything but I enjoy this job. It's everything but I enjoy this. I enjoy doing this as a job. I like having control over what I do and when I do it, and that's why I do it. Like, it's weird that they keep putting it in these really weird, like, odd. Yeah, so the wedding date, they could have sex with Pretty Woman, did they? Or was she supposed to be a virginal hooker? That part. Because here's the thing. I feel like if you look at that, they just don't ever address, ever again, her life prior to this. Like, they never address it. It's just like, oh my God, we're in love. And then they're just like walking down the street and it's like, pretty woman, yay, we're in love. And like, that's it. And I feel like the phrase, like the way that you continuously put this as though that's why she got into this, and how it doesn't, and literally she's in his car because she knows how to drive the car. And then she can't even, like, she can drive a car, she can drive stick, but then she can't even take it when someone's like, oh, hey, I found out you're a sex worker, so like I would like to hire you. And then she's like, oh. Yes. Heather, yes, women's sexuality and men's sexuality have always been seen as differently. If a woman is shown as a sex worker, they have to also be seen as delicate flowers still. Yes. It's either that or the brash, like I'm in the police, like the background police sex workers. I say hookers because like in those movies, like those shows, they're the hookers in the background, and that's how they put them. And and this is the next point. Ooh, thank you, ma'am. A lot of these movies where the main male character is rich, if you take away his money, he's a perp. That's the other big thing I want to bring up. So they're always rich, like really, really rich. Like, oh my God, rich. To where it takes away, again, like what she does. And it's like, all of a sudden you just kind of sit there and go, oh, all right, so we're just saying that she's not really a sex worker porque she is literally just like, now she's in a fancy place. Which one with Ashton Kutcher, Molly Mole? I don't know which one you're talking about because Ashton Kutcher's in a lot of movies, so I don't know which one. But I'm seeing here. Okay, there we go. But yeah, it wouldn't, like, these movies would not be the same if it was just a guy who was like, I'm sad and I need, because the only time you ever see the hooker with the heart of gold, and again, it still falls into the same thing. If you look at Changing Places with Eddie Murphy and I think it's Dan Aykroyd and Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis is in there. That is her job. But you don't really ever see her do it again because what happens? She falls in love with Dan Aykroyd's character, who happens to be rich. She picks him up off of the street to help him because he's going through a rough time. And what happens? He's rich. She ends up being rich. No reference to her hooker life ever again. Hi, Natalia. Yeah, I just find that there's a level of creepiness to the idea that you're not just buying the service, you're buying the person. I think that's what really, really bothers me, is that you're not just buying the service, you're buying the person. And it's just really weird. Let me see if I see that. Let me look. I'm going to pull this up right quick. The spread, you said? Oop, there's Jen. The spread. Let me see if my phone wants to be friendly with me. Yeah, because I didn't know Ashton Kutcher made any movies lately, or if how old this movie is. Mm. Oh, Spread. That was from 2009. I have not seen this. No, I have not. Interesting. I might put that on my list. That seems good. Thank you. Just Spread. So I'm gonna look that up. Molly Bowl, thank you. I'm gonna see if I can find that and watch that. So so it very much becomes weird and odd that yes, we'll be discussing this one and another one too. But it very much becomes weird and odd that all of these sex workers, especially females, in the majority of these movies, always somehow end up helping or servicing someone who either they know is rich or they don't know is rich and they turn out to be rich. It's just always very much the extraordinary circumstance. And that is one thing that I wanted to touch on because this is going to be a theme that goes through every single rom-com, which is extraordinary circumstances. Every rom-com has a set of extraordinary circumstances that somehow bring the main character together with their loved one, their partner. There's almost always an extraordinary circumstance that happens. And it doesn't matter what it is, like, but there's just some extraordinary circumstance that happens, that goes down. And the very idea that, okay, all right, Sharon, I will enjoy being in your pocket. So in both of these movies, you have extraordinary circumstances. For Pretty Woman, the extraordinary circumstance is that she's pulled into a life of luxury. For The Wedding Date, the extraordinary circumstance is that Deborah Messing is going to have to go to this wedding and she just can't go by herself. So the extraordinary circumstance is that she is going to have to pay someone to be her date. So both of these have the extraordinary circumstances that bring them together. Of course, there's always the strife, the moment of strife where somehow they end up not being able to like communicate well, or something happens where they're treated poorly. In Pretty Woman, it was old dude being like, I want to buy you. And then she's like, you told him what I am? And it's like, yes. And then in The Wedding Date, it's Deborah Messing's character finding out that that Dermot, is that his name? Dermot Mulroney knew her sister had cheated and all. And she was the only one who didn't know. She's like, and let me be the last to know. So that was the strife there. And somehow they just always end up like, back together. So these, yes, they cannot exist without beautiful homes, apartments, and really cool jobs. Because otherwise, like, what is there? If these people are just like living in the dumps, it's not good unless that's to further along the story, which is typically the extraordinary circumstance. So they're like, I live in a dump. And then they're like, now I don't. Like in Mrs. Winterbourne, me and Teresa's dad's favorite rom-com. That's like one I'm gonna love until the end of time. I'm gonna be sad when I have to deconstruct it. But the extraordinary circumstance there, same thing. She lives in basically like what looks like a hovel. And then all of these things that happen, extraordinary circumstance is that she ends up in a train crash. She survives. She's wearing the wedding ring of a dude, and now she's in a life of luxury. Almost a large amount of these extraordinary circumstances almost always are a Cinderella tale. Regardless, they're almost always a Cinderella story. If you look at the Maid in Manhattan, extraordinary circumstances there as well, because once again, into a life of luxury. And 9 times out of 10, it is a woman being pushed into a life of luxury with a man. And somehow she's always like better than him in some way or other, because like money doesn't make him kind. She does. My perfect rom-com. I feel like one, just first and foremost, it's not like there is a perfect one. I think it's just fun to be able to like look at some of them and look at how things are framed so that we can maybe, like, for me, I like doing this because it helps me a little bit to unlearn behaviors I've had and remove some of the mythos and some of the ridiculousness and some of the things that I expect in a relationship. It helps me to like break that stuff down so that I realize and I'm more aware when I'm watching these movies, like why I like it. Because we like them because the extraordinary circumstances, it's something where you're like, oh my gosh, I wish that would happen to me. That would be so romantic. And it's nice to have that. But we also need to make sure that we're looking at the real world implications. So, like, if I were to take Pretty Woman today and remake it, it would be very much that one, she was negotiating her prices. She's negotiating her prices. She was very much like, this isn't like, we're not in a relationship. This is a business. And then him trying to like work around being like, but I think that I like you, and her being like, this is my job. But her maybe then still like falling for him anyway. And then at the end still being like, I'm still gonna do what I do, but maybe we can go on an actual date. You know what I mean? Like a thing where she's just like, I'm not giving up my life for you just because you're rich. Because then, like, when you leave, I could be poor again. And that's not why I started doing this. And her not being down on her luck, but her having chosen to do this work because it was something she wanted to do. Like, I feel like there has been, and I'm going to have to like hunt that down. But they're all very exclusively female, very, very exclusively females being like pulled into romance. And thank you. I was like, I'm not putting any face makeup on. I wasn't gonna do it. I was like, it's too hot. It is 100. Like it says, let's see what it's 5, which means the temperature must be dropping here right now, which I'm very excited about. I'm like, yay, the temperature's dropping. Hey, do y'all know if George is going live today? Because I don't want to bump into, if George is going live, I don't want to bump into it, and I want to like be in hers if she's going live, unless I missed it. What was I looking for? Do y'all know what I was looking for? Oh, the temperature. So yeah, it's 115 degrees. Okay, it is 115 degrees. Oh, thank you. I mean, I always feel like I do enjoy romantic comedies too. Some of them. A lot of them I really just despise. But I feel like we can still enjoy them. We just need to not, they seep into our everyday lives. And I feel like that hooker with the heart of gold idea is so upsetting and gross. And it's gross because the idea is that, like, first of all, like, all the other hookers aren't good. Second, as if she's always in a circumstance that forced her into sex work. That's my problem with it. It's almost always a situation that she was forced into sex work for one reason or another. And that really bothers me. Oh, she finished? I'm going to have to go back and watch some more. Yes. My perfect rom-com would definitely be where the man isn't cruel to the woman and the dramatic conflict of, because the thing where he's always like, you so small and plain and ugly. Like, why? Why did you have to do that? Like, I don't know. Well, I'm just saying it because this is my face. And I like having my face. I'm like, I did not put on any face makeup. I did a lot of shit to make my skin glow. Stardust is a very weird, I never know where to put Stardust. And it's actually one of my favorite movies. Stardust is when I count where I'm like, I really like this. I like this one a lot. It's like that one. I love Mrs. Winterbourne. I'm always going to like it. Jessica, we hate it here. We hate it here. And we want to leave. Also, your glasses are super cute, BT Debs. If that is actually you in the Abbey, your glasses are super cute. Oh wait, hold on. 10 Things I Hate About You and The Mummy. Okay, okay, better not perfect. Um, and I hated Made in Manhattan, by the way. I hate it. I'm sorry. Yeah, and we can enjoy them without mistaking them for life goals. I think my goal of with this is to basically unwind my childhood, because I feel like a lot of us have some of these like ideas, and it could just be me. If I'm alone, you all just let me know. But I feel like my childhood in a lot of ways is, in my expectations for a romance was wrapped up in these like bullshit ideas that I got from romantic movies. And now that I'm older, I look at them like, oh, that's where I got this idea from. That's where I thought that you're supposed to have rose petals on the bed. That's why I thought you're supposed to have a horse-drawn carriage. That's why I thought it was okay for like a man to grab you dramatically, turn you around, and kiss you. Like these are things where I'm like, that's where I thought that this was okay. Yes. Yes. Listen, I think the happy ending does have to be earned to a degree, but like also does it like can't they just fall into love? And independent films have a better track record of being more realistic. However, they have their own really weird problem with the female leads being like the manic pixie dream girl is a huge independent movie thing, and Zoe Deschanel is usually her. But thank you. No, I was like, it's hot. And then we had to go get our hair done. Whenever I'm getting my hair done, I finally started to learn, like, you know what? Don't put any face makeup on, because then you're going to have this weird ring around your head. Like, thank you, Emily. My mommy new face is on strong. Everybody, listen. Love Actually is one of the worst. Like, oof, oof. That coupled with Something Borrowed, those two are a whole. Yes, thank you, Allie. Thank you. So I feel like that's the thing is I feel like we all get wrapped up, and I'm trying to pull back on all of this stuff that I think fucked me up when I was young and in my 20s. And now moving into like I'm 40 now, and in order to like be successful in relationships going forward, I just felt like maybe I need to pull out like where I got these ideas from and figure out like why I had them and acknowledge them, still enjoy what I enjoy, but be able to acknowledge where I got this from. And now I can look at why it's not realistic. So, like, Pretty Woman is not realistic because Richard Gere's character really would have called a service and had someone sent who knew his life, and they still could have the same movie, like, you know what I mean? But he would have called and had someone service, and he would also be able to throw in there, hey, make sure it's somebody who can drive a stick shift. You know what I mean? Like, he really could have called a service, and then it would have been a different deal, because they completely like glossed over the perils of working on the streets, especially in those times, but even still now, completely glossed over the perils of working in the streets, eliminated the pimp, eliminated all of that from the equation, and very much made it like he just picked her up and went on about her business, and then like, and then she was just gone. Nobody seemed to care that she was gone. That was the other thing. Like, nobody cared that she was missing. Like, so like the reality of the situation is like this is how it would have been done, and you still kind of the same movie. He called a service. He still could have fallen in love with her. You know, still like paid additional money to have her be with him more, even paying for the time. You know, just really making that make sense instead of leaving her being this like strange, awkward character who's like having difficulty and making that little small man so angry. Oh yeah, we differentiate. I think a lot of us are differentiate from reality from fantasy. I think we get ideas though, whether we know it or not, planted in our heads about certain things. Like your wedding, for example, if you wanted to have a wedding, some of these ideas of what a wedding is supposed to be definitely come from having watched romantic comedies, reality television, celebrity weddings. Like, this is all stuff that we see and read, and it seeps into us. And so, in your mind, whether you know it or not, you have an idea in your head of like, I want to do this for my wedding. And you don't know why you want doves flying at your wedding. And then, like, you'll watch a movie or something and be like, that's why I wanted that. That's so dumb. Why did I want, I was like, why was I trying to harm all these poor doves that they would all fly out for me at my wedding? Yeah, I think it would have been more fun if he like actually called, hired a service, did all the things, and like made it to where it was just a little bit more realistic. So I think realistically, and you could again still have it be romantic and them falling in love and doing the dance and all the stuff that you do in rom com, but like maybe just address the elephant in the room that he most likely would not have hired her in particular for his high class stuff. She obviously had no idea about high class stuff. Um, and then also with the wedding date, they could have just made this very much her being like, I have all of this stuff going well in my life, and I want to have a date just because I'm tired of people asking me questions about when I'm going to get married. So instead of me doing this and her actually deciding that she's going to pay for the you know what I mean? Like her being like, yeah, I'm going to pay for that. I'm going to pay for that. Instead of her acting all weird when they did get the hookup, and then she was like, what even happened last night? Like, oh. And then like he was upset, which he shouldn't have been, because like it's your job, bro. But he crossed the line. He really should have been like, before we go this far, girl, we need to see that money. But the idea that she could have just been like, I just don't want anybody asking me questions at this wedding for once about like how I'm doing. And for her to just be able to like be a high powered woman who wanted to be like, I just want companionship. I don't want any questions. And then do that instead of her being like this sad, desperate woman being like, I just can't go by myself, please. Like that bothered me. Why do people want albino pigeons at their wedding? I really don't know. It's weird. It's like I'm really offended by people who want like butterflies. That really upsets me as well. Like, please let those butterflies live their best life without you doing that to them. Like, oh, we've trapped them and now we're gonna let them be free. And I'm like, or maybe don't trap them in the first place and let them be butterflies. They didn't want to be at your wedding and they don't care and they don't fly on command. They're butterflies. I'm so sorry. Yes. I really like there's another video that talks about I think it might be them. You might be correct. Because I watched a bunch of different videos. There's somebody who does really good videos, and they like show up every once in a while. I can't remember if I was smart enough to subscribe to their channel. So I'll see if that's it. Thank you. That's another thing. So I've had Terror Tuesday on a little bit of a hold, a little bit of a hiatus while I get myself together. For those of you that care, but I haven't announced it or anything yet. I've just had it on a little bit of a hiatus because I was going through some shit, and it does take a lot of energy and fun. And I do like to watch the movie typically between 3 and 5 times before I do it. And I just hadn't been able to do that in a little bit because of stuff going on. It should resume not this upcoming week, but the following week is when we should have another one. I like Ever After is like always kind of like, there's always just something a little, I think it's because I don't like Drew Barrymore. Listen, don't get mad at me. I only recently discovered I don't like Drew Barrymore that much. And that's a recent thing. Like, I don't know. I like it though. I'll have to rewatch it again and see. I have it to rewatch. Maybe it's because like Drew Barrymore, the person, started to get on my nerves, and therefore it was harder for me to like the movie because I used to like the movie. So I'm going to go back and watch that movie. But that movie is one of the movies that taught me about travelers in a way I hadn't thought about before. Bye, Lydia. Thank you for coming. Thank you. All right, buddy. Yeah, I do. Well, because the thing is, I like to watch it several times so that even if I take some notes and things like that, I don't have to like go back. And sometimes while I'm filming my Terror Tuesday, I will actually like have the movie playing and then like pause it so that I'm trying not to miss some key points, which I always do anyway, but I'm trying. So yeah, it's a little bit. I do a lot of work on that. Like people don't know it, but I actually do sit there and watch the movie and try to like figure out all the things that I like about it, dislike, and all that good stuff. You don't have to, you know what? You don't actually have to watch because my reenactments of horror films aren't scary for the most part. Sometimes they are. If you see the one that I did about Insidious, that is a little funny. Like, well, actually, it's funny. It's funny. Ooh. All right. So I hate to do this, but my son, the abominable Beau Bear, I think he has to poo poo. I can't say the P at the end. I'm like poo poo because he doesn't know what that is. This is going to be the first time I've spelled it that way. So I'm thinking I'm going to take him out into this god awful heat and let him use the potty. And I just wanted to thank all of you for being here while we talked about it. The moral of the story is sex work is a job, and it doesn't mean that it's a line to love. And it doesn't mean people can't fall in love with their marks or whatever while they're, I don't know, their clients. Let's say clients. It doesn't mean people can't fall in love with their clients doing the job, but very few really do because it's a job. It's like, I do this job. My job is for you to like me enough to keep paying me. The end. So thank all of you so much. I'm going to take him. I'm sure you guys can hear him making his noises. And thank you all for spending a part of your Friday with me. I look forward to seeing y'all. I have a new video coming tomorrow, I believe, if I get it all edited and finished in time. I'm hoping for yes. And I will see y'all next time. All right. Love you.